This is a true story. It happened right here in my town. One night, 17 kids woke up, got out of bed, walked into the dark, and they never came back.
From the director of Barbarian.
A lot of people die in a lot of weird ways. You're not going to find it in the news because the police covered everything all up.
On August 8th.
This is where the story really starts.
Weapons. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Looking for your next true crime binge? The Furry Detectives, Unmasking a Monster is coming to AMC+. Critics call the 4-part docu-series gritty and heart-stopping. Find out how a global network of furries banded together to hunt down a ring of animal abusers and bring them to justice. Thursday, starting July 17th, only on AMC+.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, these teens turn to a maternity home to help with their pregnancies and arrange adoptions to, quote, deserving Christian families. But what happens if they instead want to keep their babies? We'll talk about the podcast Liberty Lost from Wondery. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband, and the love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of The Final Curtain, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, our captain of all things cynical, author of the City Trilogy of novels, host of Strange Arrivals, Rip Current, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
I feel like I should say blessed be, given what we're about to embark
Yes.
upon.
Blessed be the fruit.
Yes, we will discuss. So, Kevin.
Yes.
What are we discussing on future editions of Crime Writers On?
Yeah, so on Monday, we're going to talk about the Netflix series Sirens. And we're going to be doing that in front of a live audience because we did it this past weekend. And if if something really bad happened, this might be the last episode of Crime Writers On. If there was food poisoning or an unfortunate incident.
Yeah.
If I decided to swim ashore in a scuba diver suit, who knows? So something bad could have happened. But we're going to be talking about Sirens.
All right. Megan Fahey was just nominated for an Emmy for Sirens.
She was, and we'll be talking more about the Emmy Awards.
And so were the costuming.
And so okay.
All right, Kevin. By the way, I was eating watermelon before we came down here.
Okay, where's this going?
Way too much watermelon. Have you ever eaten too much watermelon and it feels like you ate a sock drawer?
That you got to eat a lot of watermelon to get to too much watermelon, I feel.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Right.
It's totally a lot.
Good luck.
All right, Kevin, should we discuss the thing we're going to be talking about on this very podcast?
Let's do it.
I think we want to. Let's do it. Leading off.
And I remember Dad just looking at us and him having this look of, I can see something's going on with you women. I remember Mom went and was like, Dawn, you need to come in here. There's something that Abby needs to tell you. And then he came in and it felt like he kind of knew what I was about to say to him.
When teenage Abby gets pregnant, her parents pressure her to go to a maternity home run by Liberty University. There, she's promised free medical care, college tuition, and counseling on whether to keep her baby or give it up for adoption to a Christian family.
The room has dark blue carpeting and some art that looks like it's from an office supply store.
It was very dark. I just remember that feeling. Just dark, scary, unfamiliar. What memories exist in this room?
But once at the facility, Abby feels controlled and cut off from her boyfriend and starts reconsidering her adoption plans. She finds that in the Liberty Godparent Home, keeping her baby is not an offered choice.
Inside these walls, you don't get the luxury of choice. After sinning in such a disgraceful way, it's time to learn perfect obedience and get right with God.
The Wondery podcast Liberty Lost tells the story of women who sought help for their unplanned pregnancies only to feel coerced into adoptions. Journalist TJ Raphael explores the resurgence of religious-based maternity homes in a post-Roe world, whether laws there are being broken, and the emotional toll on young mothers and fathers told God believes they don't deserve to be parents. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from Liberty Lost. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. Now, Laura.
Yes.
Calling things The Handmaid's Tale is a very hyperbolic way to talk about politics. It gets done all the time now. And it's like everything is The Handmaid's Tale and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but this really is.
The Handmaid's Tale is literally about Christians.
Yes.
Who are forcing young women to have babies for them and then have to give them.
Yes.
Is this not The Handmaid's Tale? This is The Handmaid's Tale.
That's what I'm saying. This is The Handmaid's Tale. This is like the horror movie version of The Handmaid's Tale.
By the way, The Handmaid's Tale is a horror movie, but continue.
I was about to say, is that a musical comedy?
It's like The Bear. It's a drama, but no, it's really a
no,
comedy.
It was just, so I'm listening to this. I'm like, okay, first of all, like everyone else, I'm like, I knew places like this existed in the 50s and 60s. But I'm listening to, there's locks on the windows and doors. The girls have to attend church services. They have to obey without questioning. They're not allowed to talk to each other. And I'm thinking about how they used to, in The Handmaid's Tale, try to secretly talk to each other when they were going to and from the grocery store to get the food. They're punished when they rebelled. And these ceremonies that they have to essentially hand their babies over.
Which is literally something that happens in The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, like literally all of this. Like all I could think of was that character in The Handmaid's Tale. I don't remember her name. The one who had like the scar across her eyeball because
Janine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she tried to see her baby afterwards and they wouldn't. And all she wanted was to be with her baby and see her baby. And I was thinking about those characters in The Handmaid's Tale who are always like catching a glimpse of their children. Like, do they remember me? Do they know who I am? You know, I'm like, this is wild. You hear it and you're like, is this really happening in real life? But it is. I went and looked up their website. It's still there. I'm like, what the fuck? Apparently you can still get the Visa card. What was that? The Save a Baby Visa card or whatever they talked about?
What?
Yeah.
That was like part of this show. I was like,
they get the fees. That's a common fundraising thing for some churches and stuff is they have a branded Visa card or branded MasterCard. And then, you know how like credit card companies collect like the fee, the 3% or whatever from the retailers. Yeah. They get a portion of that. And that's how they make money. Yeah.
But like, so listening to this, I think what just hit me in terms of like that comparison, like I'm like, of course we're going to make that comparison. But I could just feel for like the angst and the horror and the sadness and the desperation and the helplessness of these women that they interviewed who were in this place that were pregnant, that were not allowed to keep their babies despite wanting to be, and that oppressive religious component, which is really weaponized in this situation.
There's even a scene that's like straight out of The Handmaid's Tale, literally, where they're like looking forward to their doctor's appointments because they think there might be like a little bit of freedom there. There might be, and then they go to the doctor and like nothing good happens. It's just like no, they barely even talk to anybody there. That's literally a scene in The Handmaid's Tale, right, Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, I thought the opening scene, by the way, the fucking give your baby over to strangers ceremony.
Yeah,
what a way to like bring you into this story.
I was being punished and being told I wasn't worthy of getting to be the one who had him, be his mother.
And this couple, waiting for them at the end of the aisle, they've been chosen to be the baby's parents, whether Abbi and Nathan like it or not.
I mean, I was also like Handmaid's Tale, right? I mean, it's just gripping. And we end up like, as we go along, finding out more about this couple, Abbi and Nathan, and why are they not being interviewed at the same time? You know, not to spoil shit. What were we saying very recently about, I think Scam Factory, Toby made the point about like, by bringing this to tell like one family's story, it was a good way of sort of getting us to understand the larger issue here. And I felt like we got this with this Wondery podcast here on Liberty Lost. So, but again, like very enlightening and enraging.
I think, Toby, that the show did a good job of finding central figures to, I mean, the different women, young women that they spoke to, their stories had like different contours. They ended up at the home for different reasons. But obviously, Nathan and Abbi are at the sort of the central characters in this because we sort of hear from them throughout. And Abbi also has the experience that she gets to tell us about living with her parents and telling them that she's pregnant and stuff. What do you think about their story and using that as the anchor to tell the bigger story in the podcast?
Yeah, I thought it was good. What's sort of interesting is that they have this main story with Nathan and Abbi, and then they give like 20% of the time to give to Nathan and Abbi to, I think, 3 other girls or young women who have like sort of slight variations on this. I mean, there's sort of a similarity to what they experience when they're actually at the godparent home. But the circumstances of them getting there, what their family's thinking, whether the father is in the picture, all kind of varies. But as far as Nathan and Abbi go, I kind of found their arc pretty interesting because you're definitely sympathetic to them all the way through. And I think particularly Abbi, who's, I would assume that there are countries in which what her dad did would be illegal and he'd be in jail for it, but apparently not in North Carolina and Southern Virginia.
He's up there deciding everything. He's deciding the rest of my life. And he came back down and he told me that he'd made up his mind, that he was my God-ordained authority and that it was his decision. The baby was his and not mine. And he decided that I had to place the baby for adoption.
I mean, it feels to me like child abuse. You know, she doesn't get to make a decision about the baby she's carrying. They send her off to this godparent home at Liberty University, which is just as bad as you would imagine it would be. The amount of time that she spends like hoping that her father will find some humanity and like maybe prioritize her above like his idea of what the scripture is or his relationship with his pastor who's telling him to do things or whatever. And I guess you already know what's going to happen from the very beginning, but you have this sinking feeling the whole time. It's like she's kind of putting her trust into her father, who's going to 100% betray her on this. It's not going to back her up at all. And that's exactly what happens. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but that's what the whole system is designed to do, is to separate the babies from these young mothers and then sell them.
Right. Absolutely sell them, and also leverage a scholarship to Liberty fucking University.
Yeah.
And it's like all these kids. I mean, Abbi talked about her older sister going to Liberty. Like everybody goes to Liberty. Okay, I just want to make it clear to those who might not know, who didn't listen to our past podcast about it. Liberty University is a fake fucking college. It's not even like it's a college, but they do all these things that are not college things in this university. Like it is a wildly evangelical college that is focused on that. Like it's for homeschool kids. A lot of homeschool kids go there, go to this experience. And like, Laura, aren't there always like codes of conduct and all this like wild stuff there?
Remember Jerry Falwell Jr.
Yeah. It's not BYU. BYU is also a very religious university, and they also have very strict rules. But this is taking it like up 10 levels.
Yeah. Like that whole code of conduct. You know, one of my friends at one point had a family member whose parents had gone super evangelical. And so they were at, was it Bob Jones University?
Oh, God, that's even worse.
And then there was another one that they were part of that was like in Pensacola, Florida. Same thing. And they had to sign these things about like, we will only walk out when the girls are not here and we will never go in a girls' dorm. And then like one of them had like turned 21 and was home. And I was like, oh, hey, you're going to have a drink? No, I signed a code of conduct that I wouldn't be drinking the devil's liquor. And I'm like, you're 21, you're home, it's legal. Yeah. Like, but it's like
liquor.
The devil's liquor. Every time you drink that, Jesus dies in your heart, Kevin.
Oh yeah, Bob Jones is where you can't do well, I think you can now, but up until fairly recently, you weren't allowed to interracially date.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just fucking like 1940s.
Yeah, it's wild. But also when I talk about Liberty is a
1940s.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to be generous.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Liberty is a business. Like it's like their mission is not to educate young people, it is to make money. Like that became what was the thing that we listened to that was about this, right? We listened to something about this.
Yeah, and God We Lust or something like that. Yeah. And there was a documentary too that we saw that had the pool boy or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not just a business, it's a political demonstration.
It's a political demonstration,
right?
Yeah.
And especially this godparent's home. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with a service agency that wants to help unwed mothers. And it's like, okay, if this is a path to, either
the social safety net,
or like you go in with the intention that you're going to adopt. But two things here is that it seems a little bait and switchy, where they don't understand that we're going to counsel you one way or another, but we're actually just going to pressure you into doing this thing. But also, I mean, they're political pawns, right? I mean, they get used by Jerry Falwell himself to, get
stand up in church.
Yeah, brought up in church and put on television and be fundraising tools. Of course, Jerry Falwell, what a fucking asshole. Of course.
And Junior.
Of course he was preaching against the mixing of the races before he had abortion to rail about. But, like we said, adoption is a great opportunity for some parents, and they don't make adoption the villain here. they make this process, particularly with this house, because it is so coercive and dishonest, that this place, this facility, is in existence for the service of the adoptive parents and not in service of the mothers or even the babies.
But as to adoption itself, I think the series does a good job of talking about some of the there are problems with adoption in the United States. There are. One of the problems is the increasingly strict laws in states around mothers changing their minds, around closed versus open, around all the things adoptive parents can and can't do, and all the things mothers can and can't do. And that move toward restrictive laws is part of this. It's part of this movement. It's part of the only Christian people should raise white babies movement that has been happening, that we saw in Shiny Happy People, which, by the way, is coming out for a second season, and I'm so fucking excited about it. But that's what it's all part of this. It's a religious push to give adoptive parents more rights than the women who are putting their babies up for adoption on purpose. Like, that is a purposeful move, and it's problematic. And adoption is so traumatic for people in the process that, like, the stricter rules are not fucking helping. Laura, we were talking, I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in on the Abbi and Nathan story quickly, because we were talking about them and I didn't get a chance to ask you about it.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that was a really good window, like Toby was saying, into the issue, like some real people that went through this. But, you know, you hear the excitement of first love as both of their voices are recounting how they met and then how that relationship evolved. And then the like, oh, are you going to do me now? Was her, right? Who said that?
And it just like came out of my mouth one day.
And then she just randomly drops, so when are you going to do me?
Like, what the fuck was I thinking? Why would I say that?
I froze entirely.
I mean, they're just kids. They don't fucking know.
They're having like the experimentation and
the shame.
But this is under the umbrella, under the cloud of her father having given her the purity ring and announcing that she had promised him her virginity until she was married.
Promised him or Virginia. Oh, ick.
Yeah.
Don't talk about my bathing suit parts.
Yeah. Well, and it's just the way that, you know, you hear the culture that they're living in, this evangelical culture. What her father's done is kind of being reinforced by her church, by her pastor. And it's all like, you've got to be modest. You've got to be this. You can't be tempting those boys, you know, whatever. But then I find myself like rooting for them as I'm listening to this story, because they don't reveal it all at once. And you're like, oh, they got back together. And then you're like, oh, they got married. And then you're like, oh no, now they're divorced. I'm like,
they got together when they were so young. I mean, the chances of them having, under very difficult circumstances, but it sounds like they're both great people and doing great.
So I think hearing the story through them, but hearing it through his perspective of not knowing what was going on, her perspective of not being able to communicate with him, his parents who were actually willing to let her go stay there because her parents were being so rigid about what they wanted to see happen. And I was just like, this can't be true. This can't be real. How is this still happening? It really was something that I think did a very effective job at bringing that issue home in a visceral way so that you could really connect with what was happening.
Yeah, I think, as you said, Laura, the series does a good job of conveying like that excitement of young love, right? Like you're in the Jesus friend zone, and then you realize,
ooh, Jesus had a penis.
That's so like evocative.
Yeah, that's right.
I just imagine them sitting at a long table together, like
the Jesus friend zone. And then it's like when you decide that you're ready to give up your V card, you're like, you gonna do me? And if you join us at the Let's Do What We Do level, you can get episodes of Crime Writers on early and ad free.
You're never gonna be in our Jesus friend zone.
No, we'll.
And the Do What We Do is not the same as are you going to do me?
Are you going to we do what we do
me?
That's
not what we do. We do what we do me. Of course, you can join us at patreon.com/partners in crime media for all this stuff, including exclusive content like the Crime Writers on After Show. On this episode, we're going to talk about the Emmy nominations that came out. We watched a lot of the stuff that has been nominated, so we'll look at it. Of course, not everything, but just kind of get reactions to everybody on some of the folks and some of the shows that have been highlighted. Other exclusive content include Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, our Married with Podcast advice podcast. We're back. We had a listener write in because she needed some advice about how to handle her father and stepmother who are older. And I
had advice for her.
The stepmother wrote back, fuck you, you bitch. So,
wow.
So,
I was like, I think the stepmother handled it for you, my friend.
yeah. And Rebecca continues to drop episodes of the Readathon because even though the Karen Reed case is over, the fallout continues, including things with people like Officer Kelly Dever. Dever. Oh, I'm sorry. Why would she be upset with that?
Yeah.
Laura Bricker also has the Leave It to Bricker podcast, and a new episode is coming out. There is a new caper because Laura solves mysteries, or at least mysteries to her, in her quaint AF town of Exeter, New Hampshire. What's going on, Laura?
Well, there are some signs around town that have gone up with a picture of Peppermint Patty with a big red line through the center of them.
Oh, is this because of the Peppermint Patty wrappers?
Yes. And so I am tracking this down, and it's quite an ongoing saga. Somebody has been littering in one section of town with Peppermint Patty wrappers. However, the plot has now thickened because now somebody is throwing out entire peppermint patties to taunt the person who put the signs up. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of this.
The Peppermint Patty Wars in Exeter, New Hampshire. After you cover this, you legit should pitch this story to NHPR. This would be a great story.
It's
this
really
also
something.
seems like a 1970s young adult paperback novel, like The Chocolate War or Super Fudge, something like happening like that.
Yes.
Oh, you got to join Patreon to get that. If you're a deep diver, not only will you get all of that, but you also can join Toby when he meets with his guests to record the deep dive. Toby, you recently had on Keith Sharon, Sarah Colleen, and Samantha Prisbilowicz. And what was the book that you talked about?
I have the foggiest idea. What was it, Kevin?
It was Death in Belmont.
Oh, Death in Belmont. Yeah, Death in Belmont. It's really good. It's about a black man who is born and spends his early life in Mississippi, ends up in Parchman Prison, comes up to Boston, and suddenly is happens to be cleaning the house of a woman who ends up murdered, which isn't good. And it's right during the Boston Strangler murders. There's a lot of Boston Strangler stuff. And the author, Sebastian Junger, actually Al DeSalvo, the Boston Strangler, was doing construction work on his house when he was very little. And had a very odd moment where he was trying to lure Sebastian Junger's mom down into the basement when nobody else was home.
Yikes.
Pretty,
not good.
Yeah, that's just a small part of the book.
It's not good, Vinny.
It's really good.
There's a famous photo of Albert Salvo in prison being escorted by a prison guard, and that's Lily's great-grandfather,
Really?
Raymond. He worked in Walpole at that prison.
Didn't he get beat with socks, or was that Whitey Bulger that got Happy Slappers?
DeSalvo got stabbed to death 17 times.
And Whitey Bulger got killed by Happy Slapper, right?
I don't know.
Maybe you might be thinking of Vincent D'Onofrio in Full Metal Jacket, where he got beat up by Matthew Modine and everybody else with the socks.
Or Bad Boys with Asai Morales and Sean Penn.
Oh, man, he got all those cans of soda?
Yeah,
oh my God.
That was a rough movie.
This guy I knew in college, the guy who played Viking went to his high school. So he said it was funny, you go and you take a look at, there'd be a picture of the football team from a few years before, and there was Viking in a football uniform and stuff. Anyway, little more Bad Boys talk than people were probably expecting.
Little side journey during the business section. I love it.
Yeah, so we also have an Amazon storefront where you can see some of our favorite things, helps support the show. Rebecca, what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
Well, Kevin, I buy my favorite hairspray on Amazon, and I'm going to share that brand with you right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's Moroccan oil, and I get the medium hold. It's fantastic. Big recommendation.
And Toby, can you tell us what are your listener-inspired Toby Ball's deep cut recommendations?
We're going to start off with Dr. Scholl's corn removers, all in caps.
Ooh.
9 count, in case you have 9 corns. Removes corns in as few as 2 treatments. Maximum strength stays on all day.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow. I don't think you can remove 9 corns. I think you're supposed to use the same patch over and over and over again.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Different patches to remove
I was about
corn,
to say that sounded horrendous if you had 9 corns.
Con. I got a con
I think
on my
corn
foot.
is like a wart, right? Anyway.
I don't know.
It's not like a bunion, which is a bone. Go ahead.
And how about, let's see, Holy Luck. Drawstring backpack, bag sport gym sack pack in burgundy.
All right. Wow. Incredible.
So remember to shop us first at amazon.com/shop/CrimeWritersOn. We earn commissions on qualified purchases.
Kevin, before we wrap up this business section,
Yes.
I have a very important question for you.
Yes.
Do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Elaine Grice and Maggie Bontemps.
I love it that
Bless
you
you.
pronounced her last name that way. That's how I was reading it too.
Mm-hmm.
As a Lavoie and not a Lavoie, Maggie, I pray for you that your last name is pronounced Bontemps, because everyone calls me Lavoie and it's Lavoie, and I'm like, anyway, thank you so much to Maggie and to Elaine.
Yeah.
Maggie Good Times, exactly. For supporting us on Patreon. We really, really appreciate your support. If you want to listen to the stuff we make there, go on over to patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia and just know that you're helping us make this podcast that we give away for free when you support us there. We really, really appreciate you. Kevin, does that end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
Hello, I'm Dak Shepard.
And I'm Monica Padman.
And we love talking to people. Every Monday and Wednesday, we sit down with actors, authors, scientists, really anyone interesting, and have real, honest conversations about life, success, failure, and everything in between. We get vulnerable, we get nerdy, and yes, I occasionally overshare.
Me too. And I would say more than occasionally.
Yeah, but some of our favorite stories actually come from you, our listeners. That's why we created Armchair Anonymous.
Yes, every Friday on Armchair Anonymous, we get to hear your funniest, weirdest, most jaw-dropping confessions. And boy, have you delivered.
Yeah, from disastrous dates to family secrets to the time you accidentally joined a cult or evacuated without authorization.
We really have heard it all.
Yes, we have, and we love it. So come pull up a chair. Listen to Armchair Expert wherever you get your podcasts.
So, Kevin.
Yes.
Who's the sponsor for this episode of Crime Writers On?
Oh, we welcome a new sponsor. It's Rula Health.
Ooh.
Finding the right mental health care should be simple and affordable, but for many, it is not. You got long wait times and high costs, and so that means like finding the right provider, it can really make getting help feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so that's where Rula comes in. Rula connects you with in-network licensed therapists that accept most major insurance, right? So it has been a very trying time for many people.
Yes.
And I always say, you don't maybe necessarily want to take everything that you're feeling
and put it on Facebook in a post?
Yeah, or tell your sister who's going to go because she might be the problem, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so like you really want to talk to a professional, find somebody that you're comfortable with. That's where Rula comes in. They partner with a network of over 10,000 therapists and psychiatrists nationwide, enabling you to find your personalized solution and the right therapist for you based on your needs, preferences, and state requirements. So every therapist is carefully vetted, so you are in expert hands. And for the in-network covered care for most major insurances, you pay for as little as $15 per session.
Wow. So join the thousands who have already turned to Rula for support on their journey to better mental health and well-being. Getting started is so easy. Just visit rula.com/CWO.
CWO.
Today. That's RULA.com/CWO.
CWO.
To connect with a licensed therapist who truly cares. Your mental health matters. Individual costs depend on your insurance and deductible. So, Kevin, who's our next sponsor?
Oh, we're brought to you by Quince.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah, summer is in full swing. It's getting hot. You still want to look good while you're out there. And that's where Quince comes in because their clothes are timeless. They feel luxurious, look elevated, and the quality is way beyond what you'd expect for the price. Now, I may as well just tear up this ad because Rebecca buys a lot more from Quince than I think will ever make an ad revenue.
It's literally my favorite place to buy clothes. You know that.
Yeah, you just bought a bunch of dresses, right, for the summer?
I bought 2 dresses, both for the summer and for a trip we're going on in the fall where you need to be able to pack, but also like have stuff that looks nice. Mm-hmm. I bought the Vintage Wash 10-cell button front midi dress. That's the one I tried on for you the other day, remember? Yeah. And then I also bought the European linen shirt dress, which is like
that one. Yeah,
the one with the
definitely.
sash and these dresses are super high quality. Way less than $100. I think the 10-cell one was like $70. They are incredibly beautiful, timeless dresses that I can wear on all sorts of occasions.
Yeah. There's 100% European linen tops. Those start at $30.
They're
and
awesome.
A lot of other great items that you can get at Quince. So give your summer closet an upgrade with Quince.
Go to quince.com/crime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Mm-hmm. That's QUINCE.com/crime to get free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Quince.com/crime. Toby, have you ever been in the Jesus friend zone?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. That's not really what I was going to ask you.
Okay, good.
I was just curious. I want to talk about this guy, Evan, that we hear from in the podcast, who basically he went to Liberty University, right? And he was fully in the Jesus friend zone vortex situation. Then he went to go work for CPS, and the woman he worked with was like, do not bring young girls to that place. What did you think of him and his evolution?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think you can look at these things and say, well, is this person predisposed to, have an axe to grind or whatever? And in Evan Cater's case, like he's predisposed, I think, to appreciate the idea that, his alma mater is like helping unwed teen mothers and getting adoptions for kids and stuff. Like the concept of it may have seemed fine. He becomes pretty cynical pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think he's the first one in the podcast who comes out and says, at this point, I basically see it as a baby selling operation.
I guess in my heart, I always knew I would have to end up talking about this at some point. It really changed my opinion about the Godparent Home, about the university, and in a lot of ways, it influenced my faith in God himself.
It's hard to make much headway against them. There's a hell of a lot of money. Liberty University dominates Lynchburg. So, I think he feels ineffectual, but he's a good voice to have in this, right? Because I guess he's been in both worlds. He's been in the Liberty University world. He's been in the CPS world, and he sees dysfunction as putting it mildly. But he sees where the practices and goals of the Godparent House are not consistent, I think, with what Child Protective Services tends to hope they find when they look into these situations.
So, Laura, TJ Raphael doesn't come to this conclusion on its face, but it's very kind of clear through the reporting in this that the same forces that took down Roe v. Wade are now saying that if you are young and you're not the right kind of Christian, you should not be able to keep your baby, which sort of intimates that the takedown of Roe v. Wade really is about giving well-to-do Christian women all of the children, like all of them, right? Isn't that what it feels like?
It does. I was just like, this is so hypocritical. So, okay, we don't want you to have an abortion, but also we don't want you to keep your baby if you're not the right person and you're forced to have your baby. We heard, I think it was the woman that had adopted Abby's baby was like, oh, the people at church were like, oh, it's so perfect because they're also light-skinned and blonde and blue hair and they look like they're siblings. And I'm like, what the fuck? But it's like, I just felt like this is kind of the bigger overarching picture of this church influence. And here's, women who are like, we kind of, are talking about women want to have control over their bodies. And we hear a lot from the perspective of women who are pro-choice. This is another kind of pro-choice that we don't hear about, which is pro-choice. I want to have this baby, even if you don't think I am the appropriate parent, because this is the choice I am making. It's just women, again, being told, you can't do this. You can't control that. You
have no choice.
And shaming them with religious beliefs into, this is the way that things are going to be done. And when you think about sort of an agenda that was out there that calls for like adoption to be an alternative to abortion and calling for the funding of faith-based adoption agencies, and you're thinking like, is that really happening? Oh, it is. And once again, adoption is being used as sort of a way to control women amidst diminishing opportunities for women to make the choice to either have an abortion if that's what they're doing. But it's just diminishing the options that women have in front of them when they find themselves in situations. And it's fucking wrong. I'm sorry. Like that just...
It is wrong.
I'm sorry. Like it's fucking wrong.
I think it's okay to say that.
Yeah. Like, no.
But I also thought Laura, was a good decision sort of when you focus on these particular women. There were women who did not want to have an abortion. So it makes sort of a cleaner narrative in the sense that that doesn't become the focus, that if only they had an abortion, they could do X, Y, or Z. We even heard from one mother who was going to the appointment and decided not to. So that way we focus on several women who yeah, I wanted to do adoption. And this is what happened.
Right.
The problem wasn't that I didn't have access to reproductive medicine. It's that I took this path and then my choice was taken away from me. And abortion still looms large over it as sort of a macro issue here and why it's creating these maternity homes, or at least not creating them, but bringing them back. We see historically, like,
creating
the girl was quote unquote sent away, right?
It's also, Kevin, it's on purpose. It's purposeful. This isn't a result of Roe v. Wade being overturned. This was the reason why they wanted Roe v. Wade overturned, was to create more white Christian babies.
It's creating a culture where this can thrive because this is the option that people are being pushed into.
Kevin, follow up for you.
Yeah.
What'd you think when Abby's dad said, "This baby belongs to me"?
I don't know about you ladies, but my fucking mind blew. Laura, I didn't have to walk anywhere, but I did anyway, just so I could rage.
Yeah.
Pulled over to the side of the road.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of indicative of a cultural perspective, right? That it's dad's in charge of all of this. And yeah, no, be pledged to me because it's important to me that you remain a virgin until after you're married, and then maybe 6 months after that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's just wrong. I will point out, though, that in the show notes, and they talk about it at the end, but if you're interested in the show notes, they have written statements from Debbie and Don, Abby's parents. And when I saw, read these statements, I'm figuring it's like the kind of written statement we get in a documentary where, the villain refutes everything. And I would say that I was really surprised at sort of how heartfelt these apologies were that they wrote. They seem to have reflected over the last 14 plus years, and they seem totally sincere and contrite and take full responsibility of what they forced Abbi to do and the results of that. And it doesn't change what happened. It was a pleasant surprise to me. I think this probably means more to Abbi than it does to the rest of us. Yeah, to me, yeah.
As long as you feel good, Kevin.
Thanks, Don, for writing that thing. But it also demonstrates how people can evolve for the better. One would have hoped that it wouldn't have taken the pain that their family suffered. But I was totally expecting that, you put this daughter you love through all this shit and you didn't change your mind because you were even holding your grandchild and you're like, okay, great, pass him off.
Yeah.
But you can see those in the show notes or on the Wondery website if you're interested.
One of the things, Toby, that really struck me in the scene after Abbi has her baby is that she's hoping her father will change his mind because he's holding the baby and she thinks he's seeing the boy he never got to have, which super underlines that boys and men are like the dominant force in these fundamentalist religions. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but his daughters suck. Yeah. They're going behind his back.
They keep having sex.
They want to get done.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Can you believe a 16-year-old would want to have sex? So hard to imagine. But Toby, can you just talk about that a little bit? Can you opine on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's not like an original observation or anything, but fundamentalist, religions is largely concerned about controlling women, especially controlling women's sexuality. And so it's not ultimately surprising that in a fundamentalist family, these are the kinds of things that happen. Like you value male children. Female children are a burden, right? I mean, it's like the purity. It's like the expectations and then the shame that parents are being set up for when their kids act like normal kids. And especially, I don't know. They don't really talk about what kind of sex ed these kids got, but in a lot of these places,
what kind of sex ed do you think they got, Toby?
Pray the boner away.
Evangelical dominated places, the idea is that you don't get sex eds, and then you're surprised when the kids are like, oh, I'm pregnant. It's like, well, maybe you should have just spent half an hour in health class explaining the very basics of the birds and bees, and maybe you wouldn't have got into this particular thing.
Don't feel guilty about buying the condoms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting having this conversation and realizing that there's a big percentage of the country, it's certainly not the majority, but it's a substantial number of people who would sort of disagree with the basic fundamentals that we're starting off with when we're discussing this. I mean,
yeah,
I think there's a lot of people who
it's not fringe.
Would listen to this and hear all this stuff and be like, well, yeah, I mean, what are you expecting? That's kind of what you have to do. Which, I mean, it is part of when they talk about culture wars and stuff. I mean, this is part of it. And the show does a service in giving a pretty in-depth inside look at sort of one extreme aspect of it. I mean, I feel like you could kind of we could like make these like little mini courses about different subjects based on these things that we've watched in the past. But you could do a mini course on fundamentalism. We have shiny, happy people. You have this, a few other things that we've done. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important. It's also important to make the connections between these different sort of strains of fundamentalist thought that have gone. It's not even that they've gone in and out of fashion, because I do think, there's still concern about interracial dating and stuff among a lot of people, but it feels like that can't be talked about in polite company at this point. So that, as Jerry Falwell did, he pivots to abortion, which he thinks is more acceptable to talk about and achieves in some ways some of the same goals.
Yes. Well, I'll just say, having worked in journalism for as long as I have and seeing the advent of the term culture wars, that's a framing. It's a political framing. What culture wars actually means, and I don't use the words culture wars in the stuff I work on because it is a proxy term that was created by the people who are doing the war. And what the culture wars are, it's everybody has the same rights versus white people of a certain religion have all the rights. That's what a culture war is. It's like they want men who are religious, have this Christian-based, whole deal to have all the power and all the control versus everybody having all the power and all the control and being in charge of it. That's what it is. And there's no disputing it. And I don't even think that if you had a good faith conversation with somebody who was, quote, on the other side of the culture wars, they would dispute it either. That is on its face what they want now. And I think interracial relationships are going to be back on the table pretty soon. I mean, they've signaled, certainly Clarence Thomas has signaled that he would reconsider Loving versus Virginia, which is interesting since he's married to a white person. But anyway, I just want to ask you, Laura, one of the things that we're seeing now that's a common thread in a lot of the stuff we're talking about is the power of vertical video platforms like TikTok, connecting people with people who have the same interests, the same issues, with bringing people together, with making stories obviously more visible. Right now, something like 80% of people under 30 consider TikTok a primary news source. So this is like a very important platform. What did you think about the way Abbi was able to use this platform?
I thought that was brilliant. That was, the part of the podcast. I was out walking around my neighborhood. I was getting more upset. She wants to have an honest conversation with her son. The adopted mother is like, nope, no more contact. See you later. We're not doing our yearly visits anymore in our Southern charm way. And Abbi, with nowhere else to turn, she goes on TikTok and makes this video for her son, which I've since gone and watched. I sent you guys a link to it because she's like, I want him to know the truth, that he was wanted, that he is loved, that he wasn't discarded, and her story just goes viral. And she's talking about all these other people. It's like she gives voice to what so many other people, so many other mothers in her position were feeling that hadn't been able to find sort of a commonality of somebody else going through the same thing in the way that they had. And it gives voice to this. And these people are just coming from everywhere, these other women wanting to talk to her about what they've gone through. It's sad that we have to resort to something like that, which sort of feels like a little bit of a last resort, but also look at the power of it. Look at the power of where this went. And nobody else would listen to her. Like, nobody would listen when our host is calling, trying to find out who's in charge of these violations at these places. They're not following. Nobody wants to do anything. Well, you know what? Now the whole world knows what's going on, and your son is going to know the truth. And I really hope that there is sort of an addendum to this at some point where he does find those TikTok videos and they are able to have a real conversation.
This is a true story. It happened right here in my town. One night, 17 kids woke up, got out of bed, walked into the dark, and they never came back.
From the director of Barbarian.
A lot of people died in a lot of weird ways. You're not going to find it in the news because the police covered everything all up.
On August 8th.
This is where the story really starts.
Weapons. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Always so fresh, delicious, and nutritious, Eggland's Best Eggs fuel the body with 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat compared to ordinary eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com to learn more.
The McDonald's Snack Wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch Snack Wrap. Spicy Snack Wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack Wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Looking for your next true crime binge? The Furry Detectives, Unmasking a Monster is coming to AMC+. Critics call the 4-part docuseries gritty and heart-stopping. Find out how a global network of furries banded together to hunt down a ring of animal abusers and bring them to justice. Thursday, starting July 17th, only on AMC+.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out the Wondery podcast, Liberty Lost? It's only 6 episodes, by the way. It's not super long. Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for Liberty Lost?
Yeah, absolutely. You should check this out. This is a big thumbs up for me. This is, I think, one of the podcasts I'm going to put on my top 10 list at the end of the year, because I think it centers on an issue that is very current in our country and our world. And this is almost like you could listen to this if you were a student in school that was learning about what's happening in the country and really get a full picture. We hear a lot about pro-choice, and we think of pro-choice meaning women having control over their bodies, being able to make a decision to have an abortion. We don't necessarily hear about pro-choice from the perspective of women who get pregnant and didn't plan to get pregnant and then want to keep their baby and are not allowed to do so and are pushed into adoption. And I think if you need some rage walking material, this podcast is it. This kept me training for a 5K that I'm doing, running around my neighborhood, listening to this. I think it had a lot of good voices. It had a lot of good information. I hope something changes as a result, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. But I think it's really important for people to listen to this podcast. It's a big thumbs up for me.
Toby, thumbs up or thumbs down for Liberty Lost?
Yeah, I like this a lot as well. It's a tough listen in some ways, in that it really exposes not just the personal experience that these women have when they go to this godparent home, and, you know, their movements, ability to do anything very restricted, and are really pressured into giving up their children rather than keeping them. But then there's this whole sort of apparatus around them that's making money off of this, to the point where adoption is like a money-making business for this. And it's all kind of underpinned by these really kind of misogynistic fundamentalist religious beliefs. And I think the podcast does a really good job of sort of unpacking all these things and how they kind of fit together, and what sort of the consequences are both to individuals and sort of more largely. It also, you know, connects some dots historically between, you know, some of the racist ideas and policies that guys like Jerry Falwell were supporting, until, you know, Falwell makes this decision that this is kind of a losing issue for him and pivots to abortion, but, you know, with the same basic end goals in mind. So anyway, I think it just succeeds on a whole bunch of different levels. It's also just easy to listen to. My review may make it sound dry, but in fact, it's pretty engaging throughout. So anyway, big thumbs up.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm also big thumbs up on this. I think it makes a smart choice here that, for lack of a better term, abortion and adoption are kept kind of morally neutral. It isn't really about that. It's about the choices that the women want to make and are not allowed to make with these maternity homes. I think this could have been called Rumpelstiltskin, because that's what it is. It's like a bunch of trolls trying to take your fucking baby, and it's like The Handmaid's Tale. It's that part of it is very enraging, but it's also very enlightening, because this is a trend that has already started and is going to get ramped up even more in this post-Roe world. I think adoption is a wonderful gift for families, and it hasn't been an experience in my family, but I know people who have been adopted and who have adopted children, and I know that, you know, it's lovely for them, and everybody kind of approaches that differently. But what it ought to be is an informed choice by the mother, and she shouldn't be lured into this gingerbread house where you either have to give up the baby or you have to give up the baby. And that's what makes it really enraging. It's great. We need social services that will give real choices, real benefits, legitimate benefits and options to unwed mothers, whether that's ending a pregnancy or whether it's going forward with a reputable adoption agency. But it's got to be an informed decision, and they're just being coerced, and you can't tell me that's not breaking the law. Thumbs up.
Yeah, big thumbs up for me too. TJ did a wonderful job with this podcast, as she's done with other shows that she's made around reproductive issues. So there's this big trend toward news fatigue happening right now. A lot of people are kind of staying away from the news or staying away from sad stories, difficult stories. And I sort of have this theory, and I've had it for a long time, that when you're covering people at sort of the bottom of a funnel of an issue, it's harder for people to listen to, engage with, read. And that's wrong. It's wrong that that's harder. But right now, that's where we are in the world. Some of the best reporting I've seen on race, for instance, has covered the racist white people and just shown them for who they are. And then the people immediately in their orbit, not people 5 states away who are reflecting on those people. And this is a good example of sort of what, sometimes we call this in my newsroom, like the covering whiteness, covering maleness, covering, what you're basically doing is covering power. And this covers power so well, this podcast. We are right there at the place talking about the very thing that was designed by the guy who made this. So this place that is covered in this podcast is the result of a political movement created by the guy who made this place. So it's so close to the proximity of power that the women in it who are affected directly, like stage 1 degree removed from it, it feels more like we are getting an upfront view of the machinations of it than we would be getting if we heard from somebody who lived, 8 states away. This happened to them a long time ago, but they don't, but it happened at a different place and not at this Falwell place. I mean, that would be good too, but in a different way. This is really, really good because it gets to the heart of the matter, which is that this is an intentional political movement. Adoption becoming more difficult and stringent for birth mothers is intentional and political. Roe being overturned is obviously intentional and political. All of the things covered in this podcast are the results of intentional political policies and the America that a part of our country wants to have. And I think the podcast does a really good job of telling us that story without being overt and saying exactly what I just said. So yeah, big thumbs up for me. I thought this podcast was terrific. Now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the Crime of the Week.
Crime of the Week!
A flight in Australia nearly descended into action movie mayhem. That's because the crew found a snake on the plane.
Snake on the plane!
The serpent was spotted in the cargo hold by crew members who summoned a professional snake catcher to get it. Australia has some of the world's most venomous snakes, and coming across one at 30,000 feet could cause mid-air chaos. The snake wrangler said he had one chance to capture it. Otherwise, it would likely retreat behind a panel and into the cabin. If it vanished, everyone would have to evacuate the aircraft. Luckily, the reptile was caught, and it turned out to be a harmless tree snake. The flight was delayed for 2 hours. Airline officials say it was better to be safe than sorry. If they didn't corral the serpent when they did, they'd have to bring in Samuel L. Jackson. So, panel, as he said in this movie, I'm sick of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. What other movie-inspired mayhem will transpire? Laura Bricker.
I don't know. I'm so stuck on snakes on planes and the nightmares I'm going to have from that I can think of nothing else. I saw a teeny tiny garter snake the size of a worm yesterday, and it left me traumatized for the entire afternoon. So I can't think of anything but the snakes.
Oh, you don't like snakes. Tell me, what about you? Do you think other movie-inspired mayhem will transpire?
I don't think so. I forgot that it was supposed to be about movies. I was going to bring up something about our Secretary of Health and Human Services walking around the airplane cabin barefoot, including going into the bathroom barefoot.
That's fine. That's mayhem.
Yeah, it is a subtle yet effective and frightening form of mayhem.
Yeah, I'll take the snake.
Kevin, what other movie-inspired mayhem will transpire?
I'm just saying you don't want to go to the Christmas party at the Nakatomi Plaza in Los Angeles unless you're ready to die hard.
I have 2 words, Kevin.
Yeah.
Gladiator movies. I'm just going to leave it there. That's going to do it. But before we go, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
So we have a turtle of the week this week.
What?
Yeah.
That's a first.
I know. Well, I saw this picture. I love all these funny things that people send my way. Somebody sent this in our Facebook discussion group. Florida family photobombed by loggerhead sea turtle. A sea turtle joined a family's photo shoot in Florida. Photographer Brooke Benjamin says the sea turtle isn't usually out during the day, so it was a shocking moment for her and her family. anyway, this thing is fucking gigantic. They were all sitting out there. Have you seen this? It's so fun. And they're like standing there and this turtle just like walks up in front of them. And what was great about it is that they all made like great expressions when this happened as the photo was being taken. But, I just went to this whole like turtle fest here in New Hampshire. I've been hearing a lot about turtles lately, how to protect turtles. So, I think this is a great photo. We need some happy turtle news and, more photos of turtles. So
awesome. All right, Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you and send you tips or their own pets to be Cat of the Week, how can they find you online?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Instagram and Blue Sky.
What about you, Toby? How can you be found online if folks want to have discourse with you?
At TuiBallNH on Blue Sky.
What about you, Kevin?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
If you want to have discourse with me or just look at my dumb pictures of my dogs, follow me everywhere at Reb Lavoie. Follow the show everywhere at Crime Writers On, including TikTok, where Kevin is making some super fun videos. Go check it out. Get episodes early and ad-free at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. You'll get everything else we make back there, and it's super fun. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons, and our editor is the wonderful Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin. This show was recorded in Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we also gave up our V card by asking, "Are you gonna do me?" Yeah, all of us did that. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. When teenage Abbi finds herself pregnant, finds herself pregnant.
She finds herself
Oops, I'm pregnant.
What the hell happened?
Well, it was an oops.
Can I just say gets pregnant? Because it's just actually inaccurate.
She's pregnant.
Oh my God, I just found myself pregnant.
Oh God.
I fell over. I was wondering why I was off balance for all these months.
Okay, sorry.
Partners in Crime Media. It's Wednesday, Adams. I see you're trying to distract yourself from your own banal thoughts. Let me help. Here's a recording thing made of my latest root canal.
Wednesday, Season 2, begins August 6th, only on Netflix.
Nothing brings us together like Eggland's Best Eggs. Always so fresh and delicious, plus superior nutrition like 6 times more vitamin D, 10 times more vitamin E, and 25% less saturated fat compared to ordinary eggs. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com to learn more.
The McDonald's Snack Wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch Snack Wrap. Spicy Snack Wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack Wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.